Finally, decarbonization. This is going to be super challenging. The industry is a hard-to-abate sector, and what we've shown here is current pricing, average pricing here for 2021. On the x-axis, on the y-axis is the carbon emissions for each of those products. And then what the size of the bubble indicates what is the cost of carbon as a percentage of price, right? So if you take hydrogen, for example, and if you wanted to make green hydrogen, right, you are essentially looking at some sort of a tripling of the price before you can start making green hydrogen or carbon neutral hydrogen, right? And if you look at the bubble on the left, which is the industry average, right? So that's a fairly significant inflation in pricing on average for the entire industry that has to happen if you have to start decarbonizing the chemical industry. This is going to be challenging. This is going to be very difficult and require a significant impact from a cost point of view. A lot of people talk about replacing traditional fossil fuel-based feedstocks with green bio-based chemicals, or they talk about replacing it with CO2 conversion, and I think this was the last question that Bob addressed in the keynote. But what we've done here is to show how challenging that is, right? What we've shown here is on the left, the traditional value chain, which is producing ethylene from a naphtha-based steam cracker, and on the right is essentially producing ethylene from a green route. And what we are showing here, the size of the stacks is the price of carbon credits to justify that investment to get a 15%, either to break even or to get a 15% return. So essentially, carbon credits today would have to be traded somewhere between $100 to $150 if you want to break even to make ethylene from a naphtha-based steam cracker. But if you said, okay, I'm going to chuck that and try to build an entirely green route, the carbon credits have to be $250 to $270 to not just break even, but in that case, get a 15% return, which is the industry standard. In 2022, I think, and Dustin probably has a better number here because he's been doing a lot of work in direct air capture. I think average carbon credit prices were about $100 or so in 2022, right? So essentially, current markets can't quite accommodate the cost of decarbonization as it stands today. This is going to be a super challenging situation. A lot of interest, a lot of early stage companies in and around CO2 utilization. So we've been doing a lot of work for them, trying to assess what is the, how to evaluate these companies, which of these are truly interesting technologies, which of them are fighting the thermodynamic wall to the point that it's not going to work. And this is just a view of what some of the molecules that you can make from CO2 and what are the impacts, how technically feasible and commercially viable some of these are. And essentially, some interesting areas where we see activity and some differentiated technologies are CO2 conversion into ethanol, CO2 conversion into methane, and then finally building aggregates. The last piece here is the whole use of bio-based feedstocks is something that has picked up quite a bit as well. The industry has had some success with introducing some products here, but we are seeing some interesting partnerships come together to address this question. BASF and LanzaTech have announced a partnership where they want to combine some of their capabilities to develop some of these processes further. I think this is one interesting part of the collaborations that we are seeing in the industry now. I think if you went back 10 years, a lot of these partnerships were focused on, we want to scout for interesting ideas and bring them back into our labs. While I think now the partnerships are getting a little bit deeper. We highlight BASF and LanzaTech here because we understand that a little better because of some work that we have done. But I know that SABIC and Plastic Energy, for example, have also had a much deeper collaboration than let's say, companies would have typically engaged in the past.